Hello, my name is Frederick Money. I'm the head chef Fredna's Kitchen. Welcome to the first demonstration, and today we are going to demonstrate and show you how to make Quiche Loren. Quiche Loren is a savory product which can be served as a main dish or as an appetizer or entree. So today I'm going to show you how to make a Quiche Loren, right? And for that I need to first make the dough, right, which is called the savory short crust pastry, for which I have 635 grams of plain flour. Now always remember, we have to have plain flour which has a very less protein than a normal bread flour. So because we need low protein flours for any type of crispy crunchy pastries, so I'm using 635 grams of plain flour. I'm using 15 grams of salt, 190 grams of unsalted butter, and 10 grams of baking powder, if not 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Right. Now I have placed my flour on the table, and I'm slightly making a small well in the middle, right, so that all my other ingredients could go into this well. So first I'm just adding my unsalted butter into this well. Nice square, small, soft pieces of butter which will be easy for you to mix. Once I have put my butter here, I'm putting my salt, alright, and then I'm adding my baking powder, 2 teaspoons of teaspoons of baking powder, right? And I also have 310 mils of cold water. Remember, water has to be cold because we don't want this savory pastry to be having a warm water, because it might spoil the butter and it might give you a bit of a moist dough. We don't want that. So I'm adding cold water so that it helps the butter to be more solid while I'm mixing the dough. So I'm just starting to mix the dough now. I first start off with creaming up all. I'm doing a rubbing method, which is having all the ingredients together and using your fingertips, right? You are starting to mix. Once you get these fat, salt and the baking powder slightly binding with the flour, what I do is I add my cold water gently, not throwing all the water in at the same time, just pouring little by little, which helps me to bind the dough as required. Okay, now most of our ingredients have well binded into the dough, so we are coming to a end of kneading this dough. What I do next is, once I finish kneading the dough and I see whether if it's very smooth and if the gluten which is available in the plain flour is well developed, right, I should be able to rest the dough for about 15 minutes on a normal fridge temperature, which is between 0 to 4 degrees, which will help for the fat to be solid and the gluten to rest. So I'm going to rest this dough for about 15 to 20 minutes in the refrigerator, and then once it's rested for 15 minutes, so once I have kept it in the refrigerator for 20 minutes, I'm going to roll it out into small shells like this, tart shells, which is perfect for your quiche Loren. But saying that, we can also use big fluted tart molds for quiche Loren. So now what I'm going to do is just going to mix this dough. I'm going to put it in the fridge now at the temperature of between 0 to 4 degrees. So I keep it on the bowl. Cover it. Also remember, when you're resting the dough in the fridge, you need to cover the dough with cling wrap so that it keeps the dough moist, not dry out in the refrigerator. So now we have rested the dough for 15 minutes. So I'm just taking it out from the refrigerator. Alright, if you see, my dough has been rolled out to a thickness of 1 centimeter, a nice, pretty much a square, or probably I would say a bit of a roundish dough. So this has been rolled out, and I'm just going to rest it for a couple of minutes, not too much, maybe about 2 minutes, because when you roll out a dough, it starts to spread a lot, and then once you start cutting it, no sooner as you roll it, it starts to shrink. So we don't want this shrinking, because we might cut it to a different shape, a certain shape, and if it starts to shrink, you won't get the correct size for this mold. So probably for that, what I will do is I might just release the dough a little more, like, I just clip the dough a little more, right, leave it to shrink back, right, I put a little more, dust a little more flour under, so it doesn't stick to the table, and it will be easy for me to cut. So I'm pretty sure with this dough you might have about 12 of this round quiches. Now that's been shrinked, we're giving it a bit of a rest. It's not going to shrink anymore. So I'm just taking my cutter and I'm going to give it a bit of a press, a bit of a circle, yep, and just lift it up and slowly remove the round, so still it's nice and round. I'll take my mold and I'm placing this in here, and with my finger I just gently push it down, gently pushing it down from all sides, so that make sure there is no air bubbles inside the dough, between the dough and the mold. There you go, it comes out perfect. I would say that's a bit of a perfect mold for Quiche Loren. So I'm going to do a few more before we do the fillings. Before we could put the fillings into the hard shell, I would mix the filling custard, which consists of fresh cream, 600 ml, 10 grams of salt, or maybe pinch or two, and a bit of a cracked pepper. Right, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slightly mix it with a whisk. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to crack all the eggs. Once I've cracked the eggs into a bowl, I just quickly beat it up and gently add it into the cream. I have done the egg custard. If you see, it's not too runny nor too thick. It's a perfect consistency, so that it just sweeps through the filling into the mold. The next step, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to take these molded tart shells. I would like to mention something at this time. If you would like to blind bake your tart shells, you could definitely do by adding a piece of parchment paper in the middle, fill it up with some rice or beans, raw rice or raw beans, put it in the oven for 10 minutes, then take out the rice and the paper out. It might be a bit half cooked, the dough, which is perfectly alright, but if you can't do that, if you straight away want to put the filling and bake it with the filling, that's a better option. Alright, so I'm not going to do a blind baking today. I'm just directly putting all my filling into the mold, right, and then I'm going to bake it in a preheated oven. Remember, the oven has to be preheated. So before we start switching on the oven, you preheat the oven to about 170 degrees Celsius, and we are going to bake it for about 20 to 25 minutes. Let's start off with the filling. So I'll just put a little of everything into this nice piece of dough. Alright, I'm going to just put some ham, put some nice carrots in that. I put some nice onions in that. I put some nice ham into it. A dash of mushrooms, yum, and a few pieces of tomato. There you go. It's beautiful, colorful, right? And for me, it's a bit missing a certain dark color. So to just make it a little more greener, I'll put a few pieces of parsley. There you go. So once that's done, my next job is to fill it up with cream. Right, now that I've filled all the tart shells with all that beautiful things, the mushrooms, the onions, the tomatoes, the parsley, the ham, so what next is going to be that I'm going to fill these tart shells with a bit of a egg custard that I made before I could put in the filling. If you remember, I had 6 eggs, 600 ml of cream, and a bit of a cracked pepper, a pinch of cracked pepper, and 2 pinches of salt, or probably about 5 to 10 grams of salt, depending on how much salt you need in your product. Now, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add a cream, just a wee bit of cream into the mold like that. That's it. Once I've done that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just sprinkle some cheese on top. Alright, we have completed our quiche at the moment now. So our next step is to put it in the oven and bake it for about 20 minutes. I would say after about 15 probably minutes, you might have to open your oven and see whether it's cooked. If not, just close it, don't take it out of the oven. So I'm going to put this in the oven for about 20 minutes. I would say 20 minutes will be perfect, if not another couple of minutes more. And once it's cooked well, risen up with the cheese melting off, it's going to be a yum treat. The oven is being preheated at 170 and I'm placing it into the oven. I'm setting up the time for 20 minutes. Now your quiche is ready to be taken out of the oven. It's 20 minutes. I'm pretty sure it was about, I would say another extra 1 minute won't do any harm. So 20 minutes is your time, 170, and here comes the quiche out of the oven. Oh yum! See that? Yum, 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 yum. Quiche Loren just out of oven. There's your Quiche Loren. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'm pretty much sure this yum Quiche Loren is going to make your day. Thank you for watching this demonstration, and hopefully we'll be presenting you with more demonstrations from Fredna's Kitchen. Would like to know more about Fredna's Kitchen? Go on to www.frednaskitchen.com.au. Thank you. Have a nice, wonderful evening having your quiche. Bye for now.